I'm gonna say something a little controversial about the grabber, or as what I'm dressed as, the gripper. I know he killed kids, but the bro knew how to put a fit on, man. I was wearing this out when I went to go get the Black Phone 2 popcorn bucket, and I was feeling myself, y'all. Bro could have had a career in fashion if he wanted to. Honestly, I like how if I take away the mask and the balloon, then I just look like a guy who's late for his salsa class. You know you want some of this gripper. So the Black Phone 2 is now finally out in theaters, so that means it's time to go into full spoilers on the movie. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys, is giving you my spoiler review for Black Phone 2, dissecting how we feel about this new supernatural twist on the grabber, some of the new lore and backstory that they've added on for the character, whether we like the fact the franchise is leaning way more supernatural as opposed to grounded. We'll be diving into all that along with the ending and theorizing what they could do for a third movie, so don't let me, the gripper, be the only one yapping. Let me know what you thought about the Black Phone 2. Alright, so we're diving into it here. I really ended up liking what they did with the sequel, and I'm honestly one of the people thinking I might like the second movie a little bit more than what they did with the first film. I still really like the first movie and everything that they set up with the grabber then, but them leaning more into the supernatural and these Freddy Krueger-like abilities that the grabber now has, the stylistic choices with the dream sequences, the further character development and backstory that they add on. I don't know, to me, I was just really digging the vibe of this second movie, and it makes me excited for what else they could do in this series. Not everyone's feeling that way, but we'll get on to that in a second. Let's start off with the beginning of this movie. So this movie is set 4 years after the events of the last movie. Finney and Gwen are just trying to get on about their lives. Starting off with Finney, Mason Thames' character. I'll be honest, I really love what they did with his character this time around. When it gets revealed that he's been still getting phone calls ever since the end of the last movie. They haven't stopped, but Finney is so used to them at this point, he answers them and just tells the ghost, yo, I can't help you, man. Hangs up and walks away. Honestly, I really like that. I thought it was pretty cool that they still kept happening to him, and the movie really did touch upon his trauma and the things he went through with the grabber. In fact, they explore that on a little bit more by making him a bit of a pothead. Something that I would usually roll my eyes at and go, okay, he's a stoner now, cool. But the movie actually ended up making it a really strong character moment by actually connecting his coping of trauma with smoking to the way his father coped with drinking, and making that a parallel between them and having that come to a clash in the middle of the movie. When that happened and Gwen's character is really giving it to her brother and her dad, saying, y'all aren't that different, you're numbing your pain and you're becoming the same person, I thought that was some great stuff. Like I was mentioning, there's been a lot of things fans from the original have not been liking about this movie, and making Finney kind of a side character in this one is one of them, which honestly, I didn't even notice that the first time around. I just got back from watching the movie second time around, and yeah, I guess it is pretty obvious. Finney is more of a supporting character this time around. This movie is much more about Madeline McGraw's character, Gwen, but I still don't think that meant they completely sidelined Finney. I think, like I said, that character development stuff they do with him smoking, dealing with the trauma, and him still being protective of his sisters throughout the movie, I still felt left him as a really strong character for this movie. So then we move on to Gwen, who honestly, I actually kind of love the idea of the first movie being mainly about Finney, his struggle, his pain, him becoming a survivor, and now this movie is more focused on Gwen and having her own battle with the grabber, especially with what we learn in this movie. I think it's kind of cool that chapter 1 is Finney and chapter 2 is Gwen's, because she's been getting these nightmares where she ends up sleepwalking, and the movie does this awesome stylistic choice with like a Super 8 camera, film grain. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that was happening in Scott Derrickson's Sinister, you can see him pull a lot of those vibes into this movie, but stylistically, I love those choices for the dream sequences, and it was also an easy way to distinguish when a character was in a dream and when they were not. I even love the transition moments from when she's in the dream and then all the grain goes back to HD quality and the sound of vinyl goes away. Super awesome stylistic choice. Like, again, I just thought that was so cool. But as part of these dream sequences, she's getting bits and pieces about the grabber, where she's witnessing his first ever kills. It looks like they took place place at this youth camp, Alpine Lake, that also happens to be a youth camp that their mother once worked at. This then leads to the revelation that Finney and Gwen's mom actually didn't kill herself all those years ago, but instead was also having dreams and premonitions about the grabber going out and taking his first couple of victims. The grabber, of course, finding out that the mom was on his tail and then took matters into his own hands and staged a suicide. That was honestly also such a great but heartbreaking scene because the grabber shows it to Gwen in a dream, and this is where Madeline McGraw's acting really shined, and you can see the pain from having to look at her mom being hanged, and even seeing the moment her dad walks in thinking that his own wife has just killed herself, and he immediately starts to blame himself. Okay, this to me again is why I really like this movie. A lot of people in the comments of my first review were like, Chris, you just like it because you're a big Freddy Krueger fan, so you're glazing it or the Freddy Kruegers. No. I could have easily have hated this movie for being a Freddy Krueger ripoff, but they managed to do their own thing and still put character development first. Seeing that happen in the movie and us now knowing that backstory with the dad and everything he's been through, it didn't absolve him of everything that he was, a drunk and an abusive father that was beating his kid. That was one of the things that made me hate his character in the first movie and made me not care about him at all. But in the second movie, I had a different perspective on him, and it made me look at the dad a little bit differently and even kind of admire him for going sober, wanting to take care of his kids more. I mean, even in this movie, he sees that his kids are snowed in at this camp, so he like asks a buddy, hey, can I borrow your plowers so I can go rescue my kids? You see the development happening, and so I really like that they did that. Having the grabber be connected to the kids and be the killer of their mom, I think could have gone so cliche so fast, like, oh, of course he's connected to the main characters, big shocker. But I thought the way they established it and played it out into the movie made it interesting. I mean, the grabber is killing in a small town. It would then make sense the kids he's attacking, he also happens to have a connection with. So again, that was stuff that was making it more intriguing, and I like that mystery that was slowly being uncovered throughout the movie. I'm glazing a lot here, I'll admit, so let me get into some of the things I was mixed or just kind of 50-50 on. With that mystery and us catching up with the characters, I do think the movie takes a while to get to the stuff with the grabber, those dream sequences and all the other stuff that happens. So I felt like there was kind of a slow build up to that, and I felt it more the second time around. Being honest, on some of the negatives with Gwen being more of the main character this time around, is I do feel the script sometimes gave her very corny and cheesy lines. I still really liked all the scenes. She had this foul mouth and was even telling off the Christian couple in this movie. I found that very funny. Aside from that, some of her speeches and pep talk she was giving, the dialogue was a little clunky sometimes. As a side note though, I really did love the brother and sister dynamic in here, especially when it came to like this love interest angle with Ernesto. I know some people aren't gonna love that, but I felt it was actually kind of cute in the movie. And even in the bunk bed scene where they're like having a conversation, but Finney was over there listening the whole time. That really worked for me, and I really liked how Finney was like an overprotective brother, but wasn't so overprotecting he got in the way of his sister trying to form a love connection. Although I was surprised they didn't explore the Finney and Mustang relationship. They hint at it the entire movie, but don't really ever do anything with it. The other thing that is like gonna be such a contradictory, mixed or negative feeling I have about this movie is just like the carnage or the bloodshed in here. Because don't get me wrong, there are a lot of moments where the grabber is flat out brutal. Like I was talking about those dream sequences Gwen was having. We see the grabber and the way he killed his first 3 kid victims in this camp. And he's chopping them up, pulling their guts, and we see their bodies mutilated and in front of Gwen. Like, yes, that is sick, and it's crazy that that's becoming, you know, more of a standard in horror movies. I think a lot thanks to Terrifier, where kids are no longer off limits and they will be taken care of. But it sucks that those kids, and I guess the mom to an extent, are the only real victims of the movie. Aside from that, with this big cast of characters we have from Finney, Gwen, Ernesto, Mondo the camp counselor, Mustang, the father, and the Christian couple, that's 8 people who are fighting the grabber, and not a single one of them end up dead. I'm not saying you have to die, but in a horror movie, I would like some body counts. Now, don't get me wrong, they get a little bit of scratches and scuffs, especially Gwen, man. She gets tossed around like a rag doll in those dreams. Again, very reminiscent to Nightmare on Elm Street, specifically like Tina's death in the first movie, where she's just being lifted up and thrown around. Like, great sequence, and even the scene where she's spinning and her blood is spewing everywhere. Awesome stuff, but it's like, she's tis scratches, she's fine. And same thing goes for everybody else. They all get like minor scratches and scuffs from the grabber, but bro don't end up killing anybody except the people from the past. That was a bit of a disappointment, man, especially because he's so much more powerful and supernatural in this movie. I'm like, kill some people, show me the body count. And I guess on that note, let me go ahead and talk about the grabber. Oh yeah, grabber mode activated. Come here, people. Ethan Hawke this time around was way more sinister and brutal. Like I said, I just wish he had the body count to show for that brutalness. The icy look they give him, and even like this zombified look where he's taking off pieces of his mask and you just see like flesh, bone, and all these tears. I don't know, to me, this is like a really cool evolution of the character, and I don't understand the people complaining who are like, I prefer the realistic vibe of the first movie. The first movie where a kid is talking to ghosts on the phone and a sister is having visions? That grounded first movie? To me, it made it cooler that the killer this time around is now even more powerful to an extent. I do agree with people they need to maybe work on the rules or the way his new abilities work. Because like I said, it's not a straight up Freddy Krueger ripoff. The only person that could be hurt by these dreams was Gwen, because she has the sight, this ability to connect to the other realm. And that's how the grabber was mainly getting her. But then it really doesn't explain how later on in the movie, especially towards the end, he can just hurt anybody around them to the point he's skating, scratching people, choking people. It does make you wonder, why weren't you just doing this the whole movie? Why'd you wait till right now? And then that's the part where I totally understand people not liking the supernaturalness, because then it feels like anything can happen and the world just starts feeling too unrealistic. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that. In my mind, it's the fact that Gwen was nearby and she's kind of a gateway for the grabber to be messing with people in the outside realm, because he was only able to mess with them once Gwen was asleep, and that's how he started ice skating, hurting people, and doing all that. I did think it was super funny though that once they found the 3 kid bodies and they got him out of the lake to get rid of the grabber's powers, because that's the thing fueling him and keeping him alive, is the unrested nature of those kids buried in the lake. Well, they have a really brutal scene where they're all beating up the grabber. Finney's like smashing his face in the ice, and then when they finally are about to throw him and bury him, the grabber grabs his mask, puts it on, is like, oh, I can't die without my look, man. I told you, he loves his drip. Grabber will always live as long as he has the drip. But as loosey-goose as they were with the rules on the supernatural stuff, I thought it even led to some good emotional things, because the movie started and then ended with a call from the mom going out to Gwen, and I thought that was honestly a very beautiful moment of the movie where Gwen has this big goodbye with a phone call to her mom, who's I guess is in heaven. I thought it was very sweet. It didn't bring me to tears, but I could see how some people might find that very emotional. And that's how they defeat the grabber this time around, but I feel like this new path opens the door for so many more sequels. Whether you like it or not, I'm open to it. So let's theorize and talk about how they could actually make the Black Phone 3. All right, so from the things we learned about this movie, it looks like the grabber is able to come back as long as he attaches his spirit to the bodies of his victims that he buried in hidden places. That's kind of the loosey-goose way, and you even see it in the flashback scene whenever the grabber is going after Finney and Gwen's mom. That's not Ethan Hawke playing the grabber. They got like a younger looking actor, because that's how long the grabber's been doing his thing. He's been active as a serial killer for many years. So between the time of him starting at this youth camp to by the time Finney kills him in the first Black Phone movie, bro, that's a ton of space and so many years for the grabber to have killed people, buried them somewhere weird, and him coming to life because that body is there. We learned in this movie he was, I guess, a maintenance man at the camp. So he wasn't a counselor, he wasn't a pastor or anything like that. He just handled maintenance work around the camp. Well, once those kids died and they closed down the camp, the guy had to find another job. Who's to say he didn't work maintenance somewhere else? We could have a movie where he was working maintenance at a hotel, a la The Shining. This movie definitely was taking a lot of inspiration from like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, with it being a camp at a lake. So if we want to continue that trend, yeah, like a creepy hotel where he had a couple of victims, and then Finney and Gwen years later are also drawn to this place, having to fight him again. That's something I wouldn't mind seeing. We could also take a look at his like party supply company where, you know, he has the balloons and he's dressed as some sort of magician. magician. Abracadabra Entertainment and Supplies, we could see the origin of that. Or even from working as that party entertainer, maybe he went across town, caused some havoc, and there you go, another place where he could come back. There's definitely a formula they could follow here, but hopefully they could peel back more layers or add new interesting things. I don't think they should just keep doing the whole dream sequence stuff, maybe lean into something different. I kind of like the idea of maybe he like encounters another serial killer and like kind of possesses them or puppeteers them to do more stuff. We don't even know if Finney is still going to be getting phone calls. He didn't at the end of this movie, and some people take that as a sign that he finally faced his trauma, so he's no longer going to be dealing with those calls. I don't know, to me it feels like there's still definitely one more story to kind of close everything, because like I said, the first movie was Finney's and his trauma and meeting the grabber. Second movie was Gwen's encountering the grabber, learning the connection to the family, putting him to rest, and the third movie could be the entire family kind of coming together and ending this for good. But I'll leave it up to you guys. I really did enjoy Black Phone 2. I like the supernatural direction. I'm open for more. But at the same time, I totally get the people who really enjoyed the grounded approach of the first movie and preferred the grabber when he was just a regular dude killing kids. But I don't think you can be that surprised and appalled with the supernatural elements when the first movie was still pretty supernatural. Anyways, that's just my opinion on the Black Phone 2. Love to hear your guys' thoughts, what you love, what you didn't love, theories and ideas for the third movie. And again, everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm the Gripper. Hide.